This is Bluebook Digital SAT number 9, Math Module 1. Which expression is equivalent to that? Well, this is of course just adding the corresponding terms. I'm going to be writing these by hand over here. So the x squared gives you a 3x squared, and the straight x's gives you a 7x, and a negative 9 and a positive 1 gives you a minus 8. 3x squared plus 7x minus 8. John paid a total of $165 for a microscope by making a down payment of $37 plus P monthly payments of $16 each. Which of the following equations represents this situation? Well, of course, it adds up to $165 on the right-hand side. It's a single fee of a down payment of 37 plus P times 16. So 37 plus 16P is 165, which they write in that order. The given equation relates the positive numbers m, n, and p. Which equation correctly gives m in terms of n and p? Well, in this case, to solve for m as in Mary, all you need to do is divide both sides by 7. So you can tell just looking at it, the right-hand side stays the way it is, except that you put a 7 in the denominator, which is just a. The function g is defined by that. What is the value of g of 3? Well, that of course just means that you put in 3. Now, of course, you could do this probably in your head or writing it down. You could also do it on Desmos. So if you didn't understand function notation for whatever reason, you could type in this, and then you could insert the table. And if you prompt it for 3, it would tell you the answer, which is 5. And of course, you can confirm just thinking about it. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 1 is 25, and the square root is 5. Table give the distribution of votes for a new school mascot and grade level for 80 students. If one of these students is selected at random, what is the probability of selecting a student whose vote for new mascot was a lion? Well, that would of course just be the people who said lion out of total, which is 20 out of 80, which is 1/4. A student council group is selling school posters for a fundraiser. They use the function 5x minus 220 to determine the profit P of x in dollars for selling x posters. In order to earn a profit of 900, how many school posters must they sell? Well, this you could easily accomplish using Desmos. So let's say f of x equals 5x minus 220. Then you need the outcome. You need the actual y value that you get to be 900. So if I say y equals 900, of course you have to zoom way out, but you can see the intersection here is 224, 900. So the answer is 224. You could have also done it in a much more direct manner like this. I actually don't really like doing it this way because it shows you just a vertical line at x equals 224, but that is the answer also. Which of the following equations is the most appropriate linear model for the data shown in the scatter plot? Well, from the y-intercepts being either negative 10.1 or positive 10.1, of course it's positive 10.1. And then from the slopes being either positive or negative 1.9, it has to be negative because it's sloping downward. So negative slope and positive y-intercept is B as in boy. Solution to the system of equations. So as is the case often, it's set up so that if you simply add or subtract in place, it collapses to be something very basic. I believe in this case, if you simply subtract the entirety of the bottom expression from the entirety of the top. So if you simply subtract in place, you get this, which tells you this. Notice some people like to think of it as multiplying by -1 and then adding. So if you multiplied the whole bottom by -1, and I recopied these, so the top stays the same, then the bottom is this. And then you add in place, you end up with the same thing. The frequency table summarizes the 57 data values in a data set. What is the maximum data value in the data set? Interesting. This is almost a trick question. So just to be crystal clear, if you were to write these out, it's a set of data that starts with 6 happening 3 times. So 6, 6, 6. and then 7 happening 3 times, and so on. And it ends with 14 happening 6 times. So the maximum value in the set is simply 14. That's basically a trick question. Circle K has a radius of 4. Circle L has an area of 100. What is the total area in same unit of circles K and L? Well, circle with radius of 4, you could look at the reference sheet if you really weren't sure, although you probably should know these formulas, has area pi r squared, which is 16 pi square millimeters, and the other one already just is 100, so it's 116 pi. This is really helpfully doable by substitution. So watch what happens if I substitute for this as a unit. If I substitute for 4 minus 3x and call it something like q as in quicksand, then the original expression becomes 9q plus 2 equals 8q plus 18, which very quickly collapses to be simply q equals 16. So this thing as a unit, which is what it's asking about, just is 16. Triangle FGH is similar to triangle JKL, where angle F corresponds to angle J and angles G and K are right angles. So make sure I draw this correctly. G is a right angle, so FGH corresponds with, or the G corresponds with the K. FGH JKL. So it looks like this. Sine of capital F, and of course the definition of sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So from the viewpoint of F as in Frank, opposite over here is 308, hypotenuse is 317. What is the value of sine of J? Well, since these triangles are similar, they're versions of the same triangle, so this angle is the same as this angle. All of the corresponding angles are the same. So the answer just is the same thing. It's 308 over 317. A wire with a length of 106 inches is cut into 2 parts. One part has a length of x, and the other part has a length of y. Well, so of course it's x plus y is 106. The value of x is 6 more than 4 times the value of y. So x is 6 more than 4 times the value of y, which I think it makes most sense to write like this, right? That's 6 more than 4 times the value of y. Then you do this by substitution. So it asks you about x, which means you probably want to solve for y in terms of x. So then if I say that this is this, then y by itself is x minus 6 over 4. And then you put that back in here. So x plus x minus 6 over 4 equals 106. I'm going to quadruple everything. So 4x plus x minus 6 equals 424. 5x minus 6 is 424. 5x is 430. So x is 86. A certain township consists of a 5-hectare industrial park and a 24-hectare neighborhood. The total number of trees in the township is 4,529. The equation 5x plus 24y equals 4529 represents the situation. Which of the following is the best interpretation of x in this context? So let me write this out. As a block, I would have said that 5x is how many trees there are altogether in the industrial park. So 5 is the hectares in the industrial park. So x must be trees per hectare in the industrial park. Average number of trees per hectare in the industrial park. Yeah, the answer is A. But what I do with a lot of my students, just to be crystal clear for this problem, is say what things the other answer choices would have been. So A is X. B, average number of trees per hectare in the neighborhood, well, that would have been Y, right? Total number of trees in the industrial park, that's 5X. And total number of trees in the neighborhood, that's the 24y. But this is the answer. Which expression is equivalent to a to the 11/12ths? Well, this is about the rules of fractional exponents. So in general, for example, 9 to the 1/2 is the second root of 9 to the first. But by default, if you have a 2 in the nook of the radical, you don't write it. So that's just this. So the meaning of a to the 11/12ths is the 12th root of quantity a to the 11th. Now, of course, that itself is not an answer choice. It looks like there are different fractions that might be equivalent. I bet you could get Desmos to help you with this to confirm by reducing the fraction. So for example, just the number 132 over 144. 132 divided by 144. Desmos will, if you click this, yeah, it'll put it in the same form. So 132 over 144, which is B as in boy, right? Because the numerator is in the radical and the denominator is in the nook of the radical. But notice that you hit this button to switch back from decimal to fraction form is this. Function f is defined by that. In the xy plane, the graph of y equals g of x is the result of translating the graph of y equals f of x up 4 units. So you could graph this and then probably just, well, actually you could graph the transformation also. Let's do it the Desmos way so you can see the picture and leverage technology to the most as you have it available here. So this is f of x, and then g of x, I'm going to copy this whole thing. I'm going to put an extra parens around it. An extra parens there, although that's technically redundant, but then I'm going to simply move it up 4. And then if I zoom all the way back into graphing just this, I'm going to ungraph this. Sure, that is the graph of g of x. What is the value of g of 0? Well, it'll show me this, right? 0, 76. You could have, of course, plugged in 0 to the original and then added 4, or even plugged in 0 to this whole thing with the 4 at the end, which is the same thing, and the answer is 76. This is another system of equations. Now, often, again, they are set up so that if you simply add or subtract in place, it collapses to be something simple. I'm not sure if this one's quite that basic, but let me recopy it and manipulate it. So, y equals 4x plus 1. 4y is 15x minus 8. It seems like if you quadruple the top, you can get things to cancel in a helpful way. So 4y is 16x plus 4 on top of 4y is 15x minus 8. And then you subtract in place and you're left with 0 equals x. And then, of course, this is 4 minus negative 8 is 12, which gives you that x itself is negative 12. And then you can put that back into any of the equations to find the answer. So for example, putting it back into just here gives you y equals 4 times negative 12 plus 1. So y is negative 48 plus 1 is negative 47. And then x minus y is negative 12 minus negative 47 is negative 12 plus 47, or if you like, 47 minus 12 is 35. F of t equals that. The given function f models the number of coupons a company sent to their customers at the end of each year, where t represents the number of years since the end of 1998, and t is between 0 and 5 inclusive. Y equals f of t is graphed in the ty plane. Which of the following is the best interpretation of the y-intercept of the graph? The y-intercept of the graph. The definition of the y-intercept is the y value you get when you plug in 0 as x. So f of 0 is 8,000 times 0.65 to the 0. 0.65 to the 0 is 1, because anything to the 0 is 1. So f of 0 is the number 8,000, which is to say that the chart, whatever it looks like, starts at 8,000. And since t, or x, or t represents the number of years since 1998, t being 0 is right at the end of 1998. So I would have said at the end of 1998, the number of whatever coupons is 8,000. Yeah, which simply is this. We can talk through why it's not the other answer choices. The minimum estimated, no. The minimum during, no. It's simply the starting point, which is D as in dog. You could also graph it on Desmos and see that f of 0 simply is 8,000, and in the context of this, that's the starting point. A landscaper uses a hose that puts 88 x ounces of water in a bucket in 5y minutes. Which expression represents the number of ounces of water the hose puts in the bucket in 9y minutes at this rate? This is a proportion, and what I advise people to do is always write the actual units. So here's how I would write this. 88x ounces in 5y minutes. So it's ounces to minutes is ounces to minutes. And actually write the units on the other side also when you set up the proportion. Ounces to minutes is ounces to minutes. Which expression represents the number of ounces of water the hose puts in the bucket in 9y minutes. So now this is 9y. And then you need another variable up here for the unknown. I'm going to call it q. Then you simply cross multiply, and you know that you're solving correctly because the units are set up properly. So 5y times q is 88x times 9y. So to solve for q by itself, it's 88x times 9y over 5y. And this y cancel. And then 9 times 88 is 792. So 88x over, 792x over 5. I hope that's an available answer. 792x over 5. Yeah. What is the smallest solution? The smallest solution. Now, it's really careful to understand smallest is the most negative, as in the leftmost on a number line. For example, negative 25 is smaller than negative 23. This is a really good Desmos question, actually, because it'll show you by default all of the intersection points, which is what you want here. I'm just going to really carefully copy this. So f of x is the root of quantity x minus 2 squared, still in the radical, sure. Then g of x is the root of 3x plus 34. Okay, and then I'm looking for the intersections, which you can see clear as a bell. One intersection is when x is 10. One intersection is when x is negative 3. Now, negative 3 is smallest. Negative 3 is the answer. Another triangle similarity, which I'm going to sketch again. XYZ is similar to RST such that XYZ correspond to RST respectively. Doesn't say anything about it being a right triangle, so let's just draw it as if it were this. XYZ is RST. The measure of Z as in zebra is 20 degrees. Now, 2 times XY equals RS. 2 times XY equals RS. So what that's saying is that this thing here is twice as much as this thing here. But that has to do with the side lengths. So they're similar triangles. So the right-hand triangle is double the side length. So it actually looks something like this. But for the angles, that doesn't matter, right? If this is 20 degrees, if Z is in zebra is 20 degrees, then T is in Thomas is also 20 degrees, no matter how big it is, whether it's here or an enormous triangle. If it's similar, then the corresponding angles just are the same. So this is almost a trick question. The function f is defined by the given equation. If g of x is f of x plus 2, which of the following equations defines the function g? Okay, so let's write out what this actually means. The meaning of g of x being f of x plus 2. So g of x, so that's 9 times 4 to the x plus 2, which is 9 times, I'm going to write it momentarily this way, just to be crystal clear that the exponent x plus 2 applies only to the 4. Now, I think what they're doing is, from the rules of exponents, 4 to the quantity x plus 2 is the same as 4 to the x times 4 to the 2. And then from the answer choices, I think I see what they're doing, right? So this, because multiplication is commutative, you could have thought of this as this. And then the 9 and the 16 makes 144 out front. So I believe that this should be the answer. Yeah, 144 times quantity 4 to the x.